What's going on, everyone? Kevin Durant and the trade saga with the Brooklyn Nets never ends. Every day, every week, every month, it just seems like it's a never-ending cycle when it comes to Kevin Durant potentially being traded to this team, that team, and the other team. But the Boston Celtics, up until this point, have been kind of the front runners, right? Phoenix was the original. Then there was thrown-outs of Toronto and obviously Miami. Kevin Durant said, I either want to go to Miami or I want to go to Phoenix. And both of those teams basically were out of the equation, both for different reasons. One, Miami, they don't really have a lot of assets and a ton of valuable things outside of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to trade for a Kevin Durant. And then the Phoenix Suns, they had the opportunity, but then the Indiana Pacers got tired of waiting and basically forced the Phoenix Suns to match DeAndre Ayton's contract, and then that basically eliminated them from the conversation. And now it's been like Boston or bust. That's what it seems like. You hear the Pelicans, a couple other teams get thrown out, but no one really as serious as Philly and Boston. But Philly, again, doesn't really have a lot of assets to go and acquire Kevin Durant. So it seems like it's been Boston or bust. And up until this point, there hasn't been any real traction because Boston's like, hey, we're pretty much the only team that can go and get you what you want for Kevin Durant. And the Nets are like, we want a bunch of stuff. We want the farm for Kevin Durant. It's Kevin Durant. Well, another team has just entered the ring based on reports from Shams. But it's an interesting sort of thing that we're going to dive into. But that team that has put their hat in the ring for Kevin Durant is the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, right off the bat, Kevin Durant, Ja Morant would be an incredible duo. I mean, seriously. They'd be arguably one of the best duos in the league, given what Ja Morant can do and the sort of way, the way his game operates. Him and Kevin Durant are in many ways polar opposites. Plus, Memphis has a really good, young, fun team. They lost to the Warriors, but it was a great series. They look like that team that is going to be here to stay for a while. And to add a guy of Kevin Durant's, just level and caliber would just be incredible and really would help this Grizzlies team, this young Grizzlies team, really take the next step with a player like Kevin Durant. If they had a guy like Kevin Durant, what would have been last season? So obviously they want to make a push for Kevin Durant to try to upgrade this team. Now, here's the thing, and it goes into a couple things. One, I don't know if the Grizzlies have enough to entice the Brooklyn Nets for Kevin Durant. I still think you can make an argument that Boston could put together a better package. But what this does do is this might incentivize Boston to give up more. So all this does is just help the Nets. At the end of the day, this just worst case drives up the price of the Nets. The second thing is what the supposed trade package that the Grizzlies want to put together for Kevin Durant. Now, based on the reports, this is just an inquiry. They just inquired about Kevin Durant to kind of get a feel for what the Nets are looking for and what they have that could maybe match that asking price, which has been ridiculous and insane up until this point. But I think eventually, it's more so they're looking at it as like, hey, let's aim for the moon and maybe a team will land in the stars as far as like a Kevin Durant style trade, right? The Nets have this insane asking price, and it's been that way for every team. You even heard with Boston that they wanted Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. Relax. Kevin Durant, I have been a huge, you go get Kevin Durant if you can get Kevin Durant type guy, but there's certain levels. But it's not about that. You always throw some ridiculous offer out there because maybe a team is goofy enough to actually accept it. So the Grizzlies, they want to put together a package centered around their 5 first-round draft picks. The Grizzlies have 5 firsts. Here's the problem, is that the Grizzlies are not willing, at least at this point, not willing to include Desmond Bane or Jaren Jackson Jr. In any deals for the Kevin Durant. And the reason that's a problem is the Nets, they don't need to tank. They can't tank. They don't have any of their own draft picks. And the Grizzlies are going to be really good, especially if they were able to keep Desmond Baines and Jaren Jackson. That's ridiculous. I mean, you'd have Ja, Baines, KD, and Jackson. I mean, seriously, like that's not even fair. So yeah, no, there's no way they're gonna be able to keep both of these guys. Maybe they could keep one of them, but I think realistically, if they want Kevin Durant, you're basically pairing Kevin Durant with Ja Morant, and that's basically it. You're probably giving up both of these guys and all 5 first-round picks. I just think that, Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, because the Celtics, they can match the draft picks. So the draft picks aren't a problem. And then if they include Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, they win. They win that package over these two. And especially if the Grizzlies aren't willing to give up both of these guys, you get what I'm saying? I just think Grizzlies, I think they're there. If they gave up both of these two and they gave up 5 first-round picks, I think that's enough for the Nets to say, okay, fine, we'll take that. I really do. I think you get Kevin Durant. Problem is then, like, who are you left with? And are you still a contender to go get a championship? Now, don't get me wrong, Grizzlies still have a lot of young talent around them, but I think that you're going to have to move at least one of these guys. Maybe you can convince, I think, Jaren Jackson and maybe Dylan Brooks. You throw in some other, like Clark, and then the 5 first-round picks. Like, here you go. Here's 3 young players that you can kind of build around and add to your core. And then here's 5 first-round picks for the future. But again, the issue is the Nets can't tank. Like, if the Nets were the Utah Jazz, the 5 first-round picks might actually be enticing. I'm not saying it's enough to get it done for Kevin Durant, but I think that they would at least hear the conversation to say, okay, hey, maybe there's something here. Because they have their own picks. But the Nets do not. So they need star caliber, or at least, potential star caliber players. These 2 guys could fit the mold, depending on, their development and growth. I mean, Desmond Baines was incredible this past season. And Jaren Jackson, outside of like health concerns, he's shown extreme promise. These 2 guys could be some really solid players in the foreseeable future. But if you're the Nets, you need something more like now and the future. And I just think Jaylen Brown gives you that. And I don't think the Grizzlies are going to want to give up both of these guys for Kevin Durant. And would Kevin Durant be okay with going to the Grizzlies? He loves Ja Morant. He's spoken highly of Ja Morant before. But is that enough to go play in Memphis? Kevin Durant, he played in OKC for years. So he's not opposed to, he understands what it's like to be in a small market, stuff like that. So I don't think he's, one of those guys that only has to play in like a New York or an LA or a Miami or, something like that. I think he is a guy that could settle in easily in like a Memphis. But is that, are you trading for him and he's fully bought in? And again, is him and Ja Morant enough for the next 2 years or next 4 years to win a championship? I don't know. Possibly. I just think that Grizzlies are really good and really young. And it's like, do you really want to mess that up to go get Kevin Durant? Now, if you could trade, like if the Nets came and they were like, hey, give us Jaren Jackson and Dylan Brooks and whoever, throw in, another guy or 2, whatever, and we want all 5 firsts. I think if you're the Grizzlies, you do that immediately. Because you'd still have Ja Morant, you'd still have Desmond Baines, and you'd still have Kevin Durant. And those 3 are enough, I think, to at least keep you there, right there. Especially the way Desmond Baines played last season. If he can continue or even get better, yeah, you're in a good spot. But I think you're losing your most reliable shooter and, perimeter defender in Baines, who was just fantastic. Jaren Jackson, he's great. I think he has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. But the Grizzlies, they were fine without him in a lot of ways. You can make the argument they were fine without Ja in a lot of ways too. But, come on. This is Ja Morant we're talking about. I don't really know how the Grizzlies get there. The trade talks could always change. We could see a week from now that the Grizzlies are willing to include one of Desmond Baines or Jaren Jackson. I hope they don't get desperate and, think like, okay, we need to get Kevin Durant and go and, give up Baines and Jackson. I hope they don't, because what's going to happen. They're going to go out there to say, oh, it's an inquiry. We got these 5 first. Do you want the 5 first? They're going to say, yeah, we want the 5 first, but we also want Desmond Baines, Jaren Jackson, and, Ja Morant. And they're going to be like, yeah, you're definitely not getting Ja. And then it's going to be like, okay, well, we want, Baines, Jackson, the 5 first, and Brooks. And they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll give you Brooks, but, no, you can't have Baines. And you're just going to see the negotiations get whittled and whittled. And then I just don't want to see the Grizzlies finally say, okay, fine, we'll give you Brooks, we'll give you, Jackson, and we'll give you Baines and the 5 first. Give us Kevin Durant, because they're thinking Kevin Durant and Ja Morant are just perfect. You got the Morant and Durant duo, and it would just be, championship team, which it might be. But what do you do 4 years from now? And if you don't win a championship, then it just looks terrible, because in 4 years you're probably just as good, as you are with Kevin Durant. I don't know. It's a weird spot to be in if you're the Grizzlies, and I hope they don't get desperate. I hope that they are a very good, a very young, a very exciting team that has enough assets to go and get a guy of Kevin Durant. Like, I don't doubt for a second that they have enough to go get Kevin Durant. I just don't want to see them give up, like, say, okay, fine, you can have whatever you want outside of Ja, and it's yours. And then, the Nets are like, yeah, okay, we'll give us this. Like, I hope that doesn't happen. But anyway, those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. What do you think about the Grizzlies potentially trading for Kevin Durant? Which is funny, because I've actually thrown this out there a couple months ago now, at this point probably. I was like, why doesn't the Grizzlies go after Kevin Durant? I said give up Jaren Jackson. I said give up Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, whatever other players. If you want every other player, go ahead, take them. And then like the 5 first. So it's kind of funny to see the Grizzlies are now in the conversation. See, they must watch this channel, as should you. And so, yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions, however you feel about it, down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.